What's going on, guys? This is Pinsetter1991 and we're back with part 2 of how to draw the beach landscape. So in part 1 we pretty much finished up drawing the sand and adding in all the waves and the rocks, and now we're ready to move on. So now we're pretty much ready to start on the shipwreck, and there's a few ways you can do this. I have the reference image down below, so check the description for that. You could use it purely as a reference image, or you could actually copy it directly onto your paper by turning the image over and adding a bunch of charcoal to the back of the image. And you got to make sure you cover every line, and you'll see why in a second. So now you're going to grab your drawing. I'm just going to do this on a blank sheet of paper to show you. And you turn the reference back over and you line it up exactly where you want it on your drawing. And then you grab a mechanical pencil and start outlining the entire ship. And basically what this is going to do is it's going to transfer the image from the reference onto your drawing, and it just makes it a lot easier, makes things go faster. If you don't want to do it this way, then you could get the exact same effect by just carefully measuring the boat or spending some time to make sure you get all the dimensions right and all of that. But it does take longer, so it's up to you. So as you can see, we were able to transfer the image onto another piece of paper, and it's very easy. And like I was saying before, you could measure it out and draw it freehand, but it just takes longer, so that's just a little shortcut. So now we're going to start adding some values to the ship. I'm using that hard HB charcoal pencil, and you can see I've got it really sharp because there's a few little rails and things like that that are really thin lines, so I try to keep my pencil really sharp. But we're just going to start adding in some darker values, and I was using a reference image to go by, which I will have links to all of that down in the description, so you guys should definitely check those out because they'll help you out a lot. Next, I use my brush to blend everything together. By blending it together, we've created a lot of good mid-tones, and now we're going to go back in with the charcoal to add shadows. Now to add in the highlights, I use a really cool trick that I love. This stuff is called Frisket film, and I believe it's made by a company called Graphics. So this stuff is sticky on one side, smooth on the other, and you can lay it over any part of your drawing and then use the mechanical pencil to draw onto it, which is basically just pressing it onto your drawing. And then when you lift it up, it lifts the charcoal off the page, revealing the white paper beneath. So it's just a really cool way to get good controlled highlights. So you pretty much just follow that process of adding in shadows, highlights, and midtones, and within a few minutes you should have a nice detailed shipwreck. So now to make the ship look like it's a little bit further back, we're going to add in some more foreground objects. So we're going to add in some rocks up here, and we already have some good midtones just from when we were doing the sand, but we basically need to add in the shape of the rock, just like random outlines of rocks, and then you're going to add in the shadows and the highlights, pretty much the exact same way that we did with the ship. Alright, so now we've got the ship done, the rocks are done, and we just need to add in a couple of palm trees, and then this drawing is going to be complete. So I did make a palm tree tutorial. It was a while ago though. It was probably like 6 years ago, maybe more. So, but basically the whole concept is pretty much exactly the same. I'm using the HB hard charcoal pencil, and I'm going to outline the palm trees, and I do have my reference image off to the side so that I have something to look at to make sure I get all the shapes right. So you just outline the trunk of the tree, and then I make a few lines showing where some of the leaves are going to go. But before I go into too much detail on the leaves, I start filling in the trunk and making it dark. So now we're going to start adding detail to these leaves, and remember, it's important to have a reference image because it's hard to just draw this stuff out of your head unless you've seen a million palm trees in your life. Then maybe you can do it, but it's always a good idea to have a reference image. And I'm using the HB hard pencil, and as you can see, it's really sharp. I use an X-Acto knife to sharpen it, and then I use sandpaper to make it even sharper. So just add lots of little lines and make sure that some of them go different directions. You don't want them all the exact same length, pointing the exact same way. Otherwise it won't really look natural like a palm tree. It might look more like a cactus or something. So just keep that in mind. These things are blowing around in the wind. It's on a beach. You want to get the illusion of movement by changing the direction and the length of all these leaves. So now we're going to add in one more palm tree next to the first one that we did, and in order to avoid messing up the ship and the rocks and everything that we've already drawn, I take an index card, or you could use a piece of paper, and I tape it over that stuff that we've drawn. That way I can rest my hand on it when I draw the next palm tree. So the last things I do to finish up these palm trees is I add some grass around the bottom of them. It's very easy to do. And then I use some more of that Frisket film paper to add some highlights to the trunks, and you can also add some highlights to the leaves. And now it's time to remove the tape, which is always extremely satisfying. I could watch this all day. Just make sure you go extra slow to make sure you don't tear the paper. And once all the tape is off, you can add your signature. And one last thing that I always do that I didn't film is I spray my charcoal drawings with a fixative spray, and that's going to keep it from smearing. So I really hope you guys enjoyed these tutorials. I had a lot of fun making them. If they were helpful to you, please leave a like, and don't forget to check the description below. That's where the reference images are at. That's where my Facebook page is at. So feel free to download those images and post your artwork onto my page. And also be sure to leave a comment on what you want me to draw next.